This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my review of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Chapter 22, titled Guns for Hire. And this was an interesting episode. Sorry, this is coming out about a day late. I honestly didn't even have a chance to record this until 7 o'clock at night, and I probably won't even have it done until 7:20, 7:30, and honestly just decided to just delay it until tomorrow from the Wednesday perspective, and honestly, let's just go straight into this because I really did enjoy this episode, although I know many did not. A Quarren ship is attacked by an Imperial light fighter, and the Quarren is initially scared, thinking it is the Imperials, and tries to bargain with them, but quickly realizes that this is actually Mandalorians who have come to rescue a Mon Calamari prince who is on board the ship, even though he is there willingly. They don't care because they were paid to do this job, and although the Quarren captain doesn't want to let him leave, she knows that this is the only way for her and her crew to survive, and she begs him to leave and saying this will never work out. And although they are both heartbroken, they are forced to separate as the Mandalorians return him to his family. On the planet of Pleasure 15, Bo, Din, and Grogu go to land and meet with the Mandalorians, who once served under Bo Katan but took the fleet from her. And while there, they go into a car and ask it to take them to the Mandalorians, but it instead takes them to meet with the higher ups of the planet, meeting with the Queen and her husband, an ex Imperial who was redeemed through the amnesty program. They request both Bo and Din to help them out with the problems on their planet and explain that through the New Republic charter they have, and since they have an ex Imperial in the higher ups of the government, they're not allowed to have their own military, or citizens aren't allowed to own weapons, and that they need them to help go and disable a series of rogue droids that go and attack the different people in the city, and it's causing a major problem for them. And with his hatred of droids, Dan quickly agrees to help, and they go to meet with the main security chief, who shows them different pieces of footage of the attacks, and they begin to go and try to track down the problems. First, going to the Ugnaughts that helped reprogram the droids, talking to them using his experience from dealing with Queel. Den manages to get enough information out of them to begin his investigation with Bo, and they are given the most likely location of the next malfunctioning droid, which is at a shipping yard. There, Bo tries to talk to the reprogrammed B1 battle droid who is in charge, but Dan decides to take matters into his own hands and begins to kick the B2 super battle droids that are moving different boxes around, and until one of them begins to react and one of the super battle droids begins to flee and runs through the crowded city streets, throwing different items at them and trying to escape. But Dan and Bo are eventually able to take it down and begin to pull information from it, learning that it went to a local droid bar and decide to go check it out. Bo tells Din to let her lead in there, and he is not going to be very successful with his line of thinking. Din completely ignores her and begins to threaten the droid, that is serving there, and isn't getting far until Bo uses diplomacy to be able to talk to him and reason things out. And the droid decides to help them, bringing him to the back and explaining everything that this is not something they would want, and this is one of the few places that droids are accepted in the galaxy. And they begin to investigate into the fact that there is a type of fuel that is being put into the droids that could be used to reprogram them. And to take a sample from the Super Battle droid they previously destroyed and begin to analyze it and learn that nanodroids are actually inside of the mixture and are being used to reprogram the droids. And as they wonder if the nanodroids are still active, the droid used to take the sample begins to go nuts and attack them, although Din is quickly able to cut it down with the dark saber. Beginning to investigate more into where these nanodroids could have come from, they quickly realize that the head of security is behind it and go to confront him. Going up to the facility, they begin to question him, and things quickly escalate as he jumps up and threatens to hit a button that will reprogram all the droids to go and attack. As the man begins to profess his loyalty to the Separatists and rant out Count Dooku was a visionary who was taken down too soon by the Jedi. He is quickly hit by a stun blast from Bo Katan, knocking him out. He is then brought before the rulers, who he begs for mercy for and admits to his crime, and he is simply just exiled to their moon and sent away. After this, the queen goes and gives both Din and Bo the key to the planet, and then knights Grogu, who she spent a significant amount of time with as they tracked down the leads for this case. Making it to the Mandalorian camp, Bo goes to reclaim her position as leader and challenges the current leader of the group, Axe Wolves, to a fight and is ultimately able to win it, sparing his life, being tired of Mandalorians killing Mandalorians. She goes and asks them to follow her, and X points out that she does not wield the dark saber, and by their way, there is no claim for her to lead them without it, and Din says that she will get it and she deserves it, and they point out that Bo simply can't just take it, but Din says that when on Mandalore he was captured, and after this, Bo managed to defeat the one who captured him by right making the Darksaber hers and asking the other Mandalorians if this is not their way, and they agree as Din hands Bo the Darksaber. She ignites it and becomes the leader of this Mandalorian faction. And yeah, honestly, that was an episode I really did enjoy. I think that although it isn't perfect, it was more enjoyable than it wasn't. And the biggest problem with it is I think that the message is a little too well hidden, and that is that Din Djarin is not a good leader, and that Bo Katan is. Because if you look at this, and you really look at this episode, it becomes clear that Bo Katan just is really a good leader, and Din Djarin would not serve as a good leader since everything that Din went through in this was him being very selfish, him acting on his own prejudices against droids, and not really taking in input for others, and just kind of being in a shoot first, ask questions later mentality. While Bo showed off her being a little more thoughtful and diplomatic. And through that, I think that's what really this episode was meant to show, that Din Djarin just really wasn't fit to be a leader, and he's more meant to be a warrior. And this entire episode is basically here to justify why Din gives up his dark saber at the end and admits that it belongs to Bo and she needs to be the leader. And when you look at it through that, this episode is honestly it makes it even better. Although I did enjoy it before, I did realize that, and it took me just a little bit of time to realize that because I knew it was something important and I just couldn't put my finger on it for a little bit. But once I started to think about it, I realized that the point of this episode was to do that. And the only other minor thing I have is it felt so odd to see Jack Black in Star Wars, and it just felt a little off. But it feels like other people were thinking that, but it just felt so odd to see him in there, and it's a minor problem, but it just still did feel really, really weird to see, well, as I said, Jack Black in Star Wars. But continuing on, everything else with the episode was pretty interesting to see Bo officially become the Mandalorian leader and once again wield the dark saber. And everything with the mystery plot was honestly pretty fun. I think that having a separatist loyalist was really cool to see, especially since the Clone Wars was around 30 years before this. That's an about approximation, since 19 years between episodes 3 and 4, and this is either in 9 ABY or 10 ABY. So, saying about 30 years works, and it's a little longer since the war started, so I'd say that's a good estimate. And it's just really interesting to see that there are people still loyal to Dooku's cause that, well, one didn't learn the fact that the entire separatist movement was a sham and all set up by Palpatine. And I'm generally curious if that fact is ever learned by the greater population, or if it's just something known by some of the Jedi, or even known by someone like Luke, because I don't know if Obi-Wan or Yoda would have ever told him. It's just a little interesting thing to think about because it seems that no one really knows this, and there are some extremely loyal separatists still there who were against both the Empire and the New Republic. And it seems clear that they're against the Empire because they wanted democracy, true democracy, and were against the New Republic because it just felt like continuing from where the Republic left off. And it's probably one of the more interesting parts, and to see that you get a pretty minor punishment on this planet, unless their moon is a really hostile planet, and it doesn't seem like that because obviously it seemed like they were just trying to give him a lighter punishment since it seems like no one really died and there was just some destruction of property, although they didn't really know the full circumstances of what happened, which is just a little odd, but still, I think it is pretty interesting to see, and Just moving on to everything else, I did have a good amount of fun just being able to go and just see how everything went and eventually get to the point where things just are getting really crazy for the galaxy. And yeah, honestly, I do want to see where the season continues. And although I could see the problems with this, I think the main problem is that they weren't really clear about this being in episode 2. Explain why that Din isn't a good leader, and to just justify the decision to have Bo be the leaders of the Mandalorians because it makes a lot more sense when you start to think of it like that, and I think it really changes your perspective on the episode. It only made me appreciate it a lot more, although I did enjoy it before. I just knew that there was something important that I just couldn't figure out what it was, but I knew there was more than just the simple plot here. It was also really cool to see all these droids in live action, and for the first time since the prequels, they got to see them in really good quality since it was kind of seen in those flashbacks during the Mandalorian season 1, and it was only brief shots of them, so it was really nice to see here, and I really did enjoy it. And yeah, honestly, I am once again apologizing that this had to come out the next day because I only got to record that intro, and now it's only 9:30 at night. I still have 2 more videos to record, and there's no way I was gonna have this released this late at night. But it's something I really enjoyed, and just decided to push it back another day. Obviously, you don't, need to know it, but I do want to apologize for that. And I barely had any chances to record today, so I do have at least one guaranteed video I'm going to do, which is the Flash review, and there's another one I really want to do, but you'll see what that is when it comes out, which I'm going to start recording in just a moment. But I do want to know what you think of this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you on the next episode of Legends and Theories. Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.